of the things I want to make sure I'm communicating is kind of like the process of how to do all the things in Command from start to finish, especially for getting paid, but more so that you're using Command at a high level. So protocol basically states like if you have a signed contract agreement, it needs to be submitted to compliance within 48 hours of that signed document. Most of this is just to cover you and to make sure, I mean, the legal liability is with our market center. And so we need to have record of that. So making sure you're kind of following up with your documents as you go is important. Now, I know the reality of that. And so I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to like throw a temper tantrum. However, you know, best case scenario, this is what I would love to see happen. And I live in reality and I've been doing this for 4 years. So however we can make this easier for you guys is going to be key. And so please, I'll kind of walk through everything. And if you have questions, we'll go through that. The other part of it is I do not know Docusign because I don't have a NERDS number and because I don't have access to forms. So that's where Jay's going to be super helpful, but I'll give you the whole overview up until that point, and then he'll get in the details about that. Is that clear? Is that good? Are we on game for that? Okay. So the most important thing for you to know is Command is not just a tool on how to get paid. Command is something for you to use constantly. You can use it as a CRM through your contacts. And then you can also use it as a way to project your money that's coming in from a month-to-month basis and a year-to-date basis. And so when you have a listing agreement or you have a buyer agreement, that's an awesome opportunity for you to put in an opportunity. And so that's with this little shaking hand symbol over here. So you'll see at the top, I have several different things. I'm just going to go straight into my name. You can create a listing opportunity, a buyer opportunity, leases, all sorts. And so the first thing you're going to need to do is if the person that you're buying or selling the house with does not have a contact in your CRM and your contacts over here where the people are, that's going to be important to do, because every opportunity must be connected to a contact. I have a lot of contacts in here, so I'm not going to go through creating a contact. Basically, contacts, create new contact, and then follow the prompts. It'll basically walk you through it. And then we can talk more about that if you have any questions. What I really want to show you guys is the opportunity side and creating that. So listing, buyer, right up here, create opportunity, and you'll just click this open. If you are, and this is just for future because all of you guys are in our market center. However, if you are ever in multiple market centers, this drop down is going to be key. If you're ever transferring market centers, which Kyle, I know this might apply to you, and I don't know if we're past the deadline for you. If you're in 2 Keller Williams at a time or transitioning from one to the other, this drop down is important because wherever you have this drop down, that's where that opportunity is going to be plugged into that market center. So if you have anything that's in an old market center, you'd have to create a new one if that drop down goes away. If you're on a team, there's going to be a way for you to link up with your team this way here. This one's our leadership team. Listing, this is where you just say if it's a listing or buyer. I'm going to go straight with buyer because that's one I'm the most comfortable with. You can be the owner. If you're on a team, there will have other options, but for the most part, if you're by yourself, that's where it's just going to be you. Client, this is where you're going to search. I'm going to just search. I think my husband's in here, or I'll just do, yeah, I'll do my husband. So client, you'll just search last name. You can select them. You can add a co-buyer if you want to. So I'll put myself as a co-buyer. Opportunity name. When you have a buyer, I know it's going to be easiest to put the buyer name. I know it's going to be the buyer name as the opportunity name. However, once you have a property, I highly recommend changing it just like we did in Dotloop to the property address. It's going to be easier to find. There's a lot of buyer Davises out there. And so just so that you can filter it and for the market center liver can filter it, changing it to the property is going to be helpful. Now, I know as you're looking at property, you just have the buyer agreement, like you don't have a property yet. That's fine. Just know once you get something under contract, it would be super helpful if you could change it to the address. Custom tags. This is for you to use if you have different tags built into your system and you want to tag it. That's up for you. Estimated close date. That can be 30 days out, whatever. Do that how you want to do that. Time frame. Now this is for if you're creating an opportunity and you don't have a contract yet, you just have a buyer and you're like, they want to buy in the next 3 to 6 months. You can select a time frame that's going to kind of show you like, hey, I have this buyer's agreement with this person, but they're really not looking for the next 6 months. And you can classify them this way so that it will stay top of mind in your task list to make sure to reach out to them. Now, if they're buying right now and you're just creating an opportunity because you have a buyer, I mean, you can either skip it or just go right away. You can put in their budget information, how much their commission rate is. I'm just going to stick with the 3%. Opportunity phase, this is going to be another key aspect to use in Command as you play around with it. So the cultivate phase is really for if you just have a buyer that you're building the relationship with, you just haven't put anything under contract yet, or you're just kind of like, you have this agreement, you're going to be talking to them, you need to keep them top of mind. Appointments, after you've actually met with them, have a buyer agreement or a listing agreement with them. And then active is when they're actively in the process of buying or selling. Now you can build that out however you want to on your end. Those 3 words are always going to stay the same, but just know is if it's not an active phase as a market center, I can't see it. So if you have submitted if you need me to look at an opportunity on my end to see kind of where you're at with things, if it's in cultivate an appointment, the market center doesn't really need to see it at that time. So if you've submitted documents, make sure it's in the active phase so that I can see it and be a part of that process with you. So that if you call, I can see everything that you're doing. There's also the opportunity stage, which is the watch, nurture, and hot. And you can use that however you want to do in your business. So it just makes you put something in. So I'm going to just do active. Each of these, cultivate, appointment, active, gives you different opportunity stages, and you can, I believe, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, you can change these opportunity stage names, correct, to be whatever you want them to be?
Correct. So the stage is the part of the opportunity phase, and the phase cannot be changed, but the stages can all be changed. You'll also notice that legacy stage appears in there. That legacy is for those of us who are using .loop and transitioning stuff over. That legacy will soon go away, so you won't see that forever. That's what that's for.
Yep. Perfect. So I'll just put this in negotiation so it's somewhere in the active phase and we'll move on. Once you click create, this will be your go-to screen basically from everything else. This is going to have your general information in here. You can edit all the information. The more information you give this, the more artificial intelligence power you will have in the future. Right now, it's maybe not using at a high level capacity. However, the more information you put in, they'll be able to read areas, what's selling, what's not. And that's just the standard procedure for everything we do in here. You can do the basics, or you can give it the most information and have it help you a lot in the future.
It's also important to note here, guys, everything that you have here is what transfers over into Docusign to help you with auto-filling contracts. So the more you fill out here, the more Docusign will be able to auto-fill stuff for you and help you save time.
Perfect. So it has, I mean, everything and anything in here. You can put even the finance type and write your own description. So that's just a good area. Now, Jay, also correct me if I'm wrong. If we're in the listing, if we're building a listing opportunity, is this where we also at the top in this banner can connect the listing through KWLS?
Yes.
And that is required. You can't submit an opportunity or a commission request without linking your listing in your opportunity. So make sure if you have any listings that you have put under contract, you're linking it through the KWLS system as soon as you can, because that's important. So that's the details. Buyer profile. Is this new, Jay?
Yes. So the buyer profile, and that's listed there because this is a buyer opportunity.
Right.
If this were a seller opportunity or a listing opportunity, it would say seller profile. What this is your ability to communicate with your clients through the app and on your website. So within this profile, you're going to be able to see if your clients have downloaded the app and are connected to you. And if they are, it's going to give you a whole lot more features about how you can share information with them through the app and through your website.
So that's awesome. So that's a good right there, like giveaway if they're connected to you on multiple platforms. I, however, am not linked to myself on my app, so that's what you see here. Documents. So this is where I live. It's not going to take that much time to go over this. I don't think Documents, this is where all your compliance stuff happens. We'll go deeper into Docusign and how to pull from there into documents. However, everything must be submitted in documents for compliance review. We're not using Docusign anymore. It's not done via email. Like everything must be in here in the categories that they're assigned, just so that we can cover our butts, frankly. And it's just important to keep all the data in-house. I mean, a lot of the reason with Dotloop that we switched is because we want to make sure we're building our own platform. And now this is the way that we get to keep it in-house. So the first thing you'll see is pick type of checklist. This allows you under a buyer opportunity to pick if it's a residential, new construction, commercial, or land. We just know that there's different requirements for each one. And so instead of having you to go back and have the compliance people be like, oh, I need this, and then you have to say, no, it's new construction. We've just created a different checklist so that they know what the compliance requirements are for that. So I'm just going to go straight into residential because that is the most common. Once you pull up in here, you'll have 3 different categories. Consultation, that's when you're doing the buyer's agency, you got the relationship disclosure, and upload those here. So this could be submitted and put through before you even have anything under contract. I actually recommend it be done as soon as you have the document so that now you have the one place that it's saved. One, because compliance, it's required, but also too, so that now you don't have to worry about where it's saved on your computer and you all have it in one spot. So just make sure you'll add a file. I'll show you how to do it manually, and then Jay, I'll let you go into the Docusign portion. You could just upload your own from your documents by clicking add a file, and then you can drag and drop or browse your own files, and then just click assign. Once you've done that, it will give you the opportunity to submit to MC. It is important that each folder says submitted and approved for compliance review. There's a lot of people that submit or upload everything, but then only submit the closed documents, and that's not going to be a compliant file. We want to make sure you're submitting each of these each of these folders must say approved next to it, and it'll be in bright green when it's time. If you ever have inside these, I'll also say under each line, it'll say required or conditionally required or optional. So if it says required, you will not get approved for payment if it's something is not uploaded there. It'll get rejected and you'll have to do that. So you'll see here, like the agreement to buy or sell is required. Property disclosure is required. Copy of earnest money check, that is supposed to say conditionally required. No, copy of earnest money check isn't. The escrow acknowledgement has recently changed to conditionally required. Because the signed page 8 is no longer around. So we put that in there so that as we look to combining the 2 market centers brokerages, if we need something to be acknowledged there for escrow, we are going to put it there. The W-9 puts in here if you have a referral as well as your referral agreement. So, and then at the bottom, you just have a bunch of optionals. So once again, fill out as much information as you can. However, what's required of us to get paid are the things that are notated down here in this little section that says required. If you need to contact me, you can always add a contact or a comment, and with the @ sign, you'll see everybody tagged in this opportunity. So Joseph, Vince, Kristen, and I have it for admin purposes, but Darla and Robin are our compliance people, and Joseph's in there as our broker. So if you want to speak to me specifically, which you can't because this is my opportunity, but if I want to speak to Joseph, just do the @ sign, you can click him, and now he'll automatically get a notification on his Kelly that he has something he needs to address with you if you have questions. So that's a great way to communicate. In the future, that will be my way of communicating to you, and you will actually automatically get emails every time the @ symbol is used with your name with the comment, so that not only you don't have to just log into Command every day to see if I've communicated with you. You'll get emails for only the things that I've commented with your name attached to it on. And on here, if there's ever something that you need to upload, but you don't have a line for, you can always add your own item here and write the name of what it is. The other great feature for a buyer is a lot of times we know you have a buyer, you put something under contract, yet it falls through. We still want to keep that documentation. So still, if you put something under, or you sign an agreement, go ahead and put that in here. However, if you need to go to a different house, right here next to under contract, there's this drop down arrow. If you click this, you can actually now add a different version and label it 456 Main Street, and it stays within the contact of the human you're already in relationship with. So you can actually keep all versions inside that one opportunity. And so now your new opportunity will clear out and you can upload everything in here in the same opportunity as the first one, because your like your buyer agency hasn't changed with the person, just all your contract agreements. And then you can always go back because we keep every version. So now you have the under contract, which is the original folder, and the 456 Main Street available for you to look at. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? I just kind of blew through that.
I have a quick question, Tiffany.
Sure.
I have a contract and the seller's agent sent it back, but she sent back everything in one file. And I'm trying to figure out how to separate it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think there is a splitter in Docusign, Jay. Is that true?
Correct. You should be able to split the documents when you save it in Docusign, and we can look at that in just a moment.
Yep, you can do that. Or I have a print to PDF feature where you can save it through Pages. It does make you have to split it, unfortunately, just so that things can get checked individually. Because what they don't want to do is send back one thing, and now you have to look back and see which thing we need to fix.
Thank you.
So Jay, what should I?
Jandria, if you have a Mac, it's really easy to separate the two just with a PDF in your PDF file when you open it. And I'm sure someone who knows how to do it in a PC can probably also help you do it really quickly. I'm just not familiar.
I have Mac.
Okay. But it's really simple to separate.
All right.
And then finally, the last thing I'll say about this page is at the end of your transaction, my intention is there's a disbursement authorization. It's something I do for every transaction at the end. It gives you the breakdown, like a 2-page breakdown of here's the summary of what you got paid. Here's how much you paid to company dollar. Here's how much you paid to royalty. Here's how much you paid to productivity coaching, all the works. And I actually create in custom folder, a folder that's labeled DA, just like this. And this is where I'm going to upload that DA for you so that you have access to it in the future. So if you're ever like, I really need a breakdown of 123 Main Street, you can go into your opportunity and pull that at any time. Now, if I miss them, just shoot me an email because sometimes I forget. And I can always get that to you at any time because I have them all saved elsewhere on my computer as well. So that's going to be extremely important for you to do. And so for you to get paid, everything here on the right needs to say approved. If it's payday and you have the check, making sure you have a copy of the check, the HUD and CL100 is going to be important for you to submit. There is likely, if everything else is submitted, that I will go ahead and pay if the only thing left to approve is the HUD and the check, because usually by then there's been several other checks that have done. However, if under contract is still not approved or consultation is still not approved, I will hold off on that payment till I can make sure that compliance has everything under control. Now, and they are on a timeline of 24 hours for business days to check compliance things. So they check quickly, just as quickly as we do in the office, and we're making sure we're watching it too, so that it's not a delay on their end. So Jay, while we're in here, do you want me to just go through to offers and commissions and just finish that out, and then you can spend the rest of the time in Docusign?
Please.
Okay. So a little peek behind the curtain. Over the next couple weeks, there's going to be a few changes in this page. The commissions tab is actually going to go away because what we've found is that people don't realize it's there because the majority of the time, like here, it's grayed out. And it's going to go inside the offers tab. So the offers tab right now kind of feels a little redundant and pointless because you're just entering the information again. However, the offers tab is important because the vision of KW is for it to learn how things are operating. So say you have 4 offers on one house, if it's your listing, putting all those offers in are important so that it can read what offers were rejected, what offers were accepted, and what's the time frame of those offers. So in the future, it can say, oh, this house was $250,000. This was an offers that are most likely be taken. So now you're smarter when you're telling your clients, hey, what's a good offer to put in on this property? Does that make sense? Now, once again, I say you can also just put in the one offer you're accepting and keep moving on for your day. Like, I know that's what most of you are going to do, and that's fine. Just know the more information you give it, the more helpful it's going to be. But I live in reality. So add new offer. It's going to basically walk us through this. You can name it whatever you want to. I'm just going to go with a lot of the defaults. Create new offer. You can put in the date when it wants to close. I'm going to do July 9th again. The property address, if it's a KW address, you can pull it through KWLS. Let me see if I can find one to link. I don't know if I can find one. Let's just do 123 Main Street. Let's see what, Somerville, South Main Street, great. So you will have to link it to a property once you have something under contract. Parties, this is where you're gonna fill in the buyer name and information. It's gonna pull, you can see my husband, the Povo email, that's not a real email, that's just what I made up. But it'll fill in your information from the contacts information. You'll just have to add in the seller information. And as much information as you want there, you can. You'll also put in who they represented. This is a great way for you to take this information so you can use it to build your profit share tree in the future. So you have relationship with agents that you've done deals with, and you can keep that in the forefront of your opportunities. Terms. You guys are gonna know how most of this works more than I am, but this is where it's gonna tell you what they're putting down, how much they're financing, what the sales price is. I'm just gonna make this really simple on us and say, put a $250,000 house is the total. How much they put to earnest money. You can put notice of termination, all that information, seller costs, all that stuff. You can put that in. Agent analysis, this allows you, if there is a multiple offer situation, especially in a listing situation, where you can put the pros and cons. And if you have multiple offers, it'll actually pull up a PDF that you can present to your clients and say, here are your 4 options. Here are the pros and cons of each one. Which one do you want to do? So building out all this information just kind of allows you to communicate to your agents in a cleaner, prettier fashion. So I'm not going to put anything in here, and I'm just going to move on. Now, for your offers, you have to put an offer and accept one to have the commissions part open up. In the future, what we're hoping for and what we've built out, I'm in a lab with a bunch of MCAs in the area, is that once you click accept, it's going to pop it up and you can just put all the information in there, so that now you don't have to think of, oh, I have to do a commission request. Kind of like a green sheet, we always just forget to do it. And it's really important that we have it so that you can get paid. But for now, I'll show you kind of what it looks like now, and it'll only just improve because we are trying to create it so that you don't have to click 17 extra steps, because that's where most of the problems lie. So make sure you click accept. And once you accept an offer and it loads, this would be really unfortunate if this doesn't work. This is how I operate. I just click buttons. There we go. Okay, so now it's accepted. You can go in here and change your it later if you get another offer. However, that's a whole different conversation that we're not going to do today.
Yeah, and if I could just add there, that's one of the reasons why they're making a lot of changes, is because this is kind of clunky and cumbersome. The idea here is to try to simplify that, and that's why offers and commissions is going to be integrated into one tab instead of 2.
Correct. Because right now you've accepted an offer, it feels like you're done, right? But you're not, and you should be, frankly, because you've already put in all that information. There should only be a few more things you have to do. So then for now you have to look at, oh, okay, this commission's now lit up, I can go click in there. It just kind of puts a lot of extra information. So this is your commission request. If you were with us before in the old system, this is the new green sheet. And so this is kind of how we see it operating. It'll automatically put in the sales price that you put in your offer, the 3% commission that you put from the beginning, and then it'll automatically calculate the total commission in the unit. The contract date's important. We're just going to say we put in our contract yesterday. And here's where it breaks it down for the agents. This top part and this look very similar. However, if you are splitting a deal with a person, so say Jay and I are doing this deal together, we have to be able to put both people on it. And I know a lot of people on here are individual agents, but I do just want to kind of show you, if you're ever doing a deal with a person in the office or you build a team, it's important to know this.
Or you have a referral, because you have
Or
to
you
add
have
referrals every day.
Yes, we're going to go through an outside referral too, because a lot of people do that wrong. But if you have an inside referral within the office, it's important. You have to change the unit number here to say, let's say it's 0.75. I guess it won't let you do 0.75. It just lets you do 0.7. Here's the fun part about command. It doesn't actually automatically calculate to lower this amount here. It's going to in the future, but it doesn't yet. And so you have to do the math. So I'm going to do 0.7.
And also, Tiffany, if I can add, you do
Yeah.
not have to change the unit number.
You don't have to, no.
Correct. You as the primary agent can still take credit for the unit while giving a portion to someone else. So for instance, with a referral, especially, you would not change the unit number.
Correct.
You would only change the commission amount.
Correct. And by changing the commission amount, that's what makes this number different than this number and lets you add another agent to the thing. The unit doesn't change that. That is correct. So that's a good feature. So now what you're looking at here is, okay, 0.7 is mine, right? So what are the breakdowns that I need to look at? Okay, so my cap for my realty is 3,000, so it's going to take $315 out. Okay. My company dollar, my cap is 20,000, and just know that that hasn't changed with the new cap on this end yet. Through transmittal, it should lower and fix. I'm going to be sending a support ticket if it doesn't. So just know that it is 15,000 is the new cap, and whatever is happening, we're going to get it fixed. So company dollar, it tells me my company dollar, that's how much I'm paying. The split is also 20% for everybody. It still shows 30. So that should be changed. Here's where you can see if you want to add any KW Cares donations, any Kids Can donations, or any Bold donations. And if you want to add anything else. So you can also add a bonus. If there's a $1,000 bonus on here, this is where you add that, a concession, or deduction. Deduction would be if you're in productivity coaching, or you're using Enable, or you're using another closing coordinator that you pay out from us, which is only like 2 approved ones. You could do that in deductions as well. Concessions you probably will never really use. So that's where you'd add that. Down here,
bonus.
What was that?
What's an example of a bonus?
So a lot of new construction, it's like if you close before a certain date, you get $5,000 bonus. It's still company dollar, so you still get paid on it. It just doesn't reflect in the 3% commission.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now, because we lowered to the 0.7 down here, it now at the bottom here allows me to add agent. It does not let you do that unless you've lowered the commission dollar. So once I go in and add agent, I don't think I have anybody on my team. So actually, yeah, it'll let me add Jay.
It should let you add anybody in our market center, and it's supposed to also allow you to start typing and add anybody in KW.
Really?
So that part might not be there yet.
I don't think that was
anybody
live.
in the market center.
Yeah, definitely inside, because that's a different thing on my backend system. So here's where you'd have to make sure the unit is 1. So if you change the unit up in the first agent to 0.7, you'd have to change it to 0.3 because it has to be 1 unit by the end of this. And then you'd have to do the difference, which I don't even know what it is. Who's got it?
5250 minus 700.
25. I think it's.
I can do 3%. I can't do this other stuff.
It's not that. I can tell you that.
2250.
That's what it was. I was close. I had all the right numbers, just not in the right order. So then you do the 2250 part. So now it adds up to the total the commission was at the top line. Go through the same thing, cap, royalty, and then the check amount. Once you're done, you can either add notes here, which this is a great place if you have a bold reimbursement to put bold in there. So if you're submitting and something went under contract and you've been taking bold, you get reimbursed for your first 2 transactions. So you can put that in there, or if there's any other funky thing going on, you can click that as well. And then you just click submit. I'm not going to do that yet because I do want to show you how to do an outside referral, if I remember how to do it. Let me just go back to 1 unit, because here's the other thing. If you're sending a referral check to someone else, The difference of this one is it's very, very important you get a W-9 from that brokerage, because it is required that you put a accurate EIN number in, because if you put 1 through 9, it will error out and I'll have to reject it and you have to input it anyway. So it's just important you get a good W-9 from that referral brokerage, and so that everything pulls into the system perfectly, and it just creates less headache on your end. All right. So outside referral, Jay, where do I do this?
It's the same way. So put the unit back to.
So I just change the amount?
Yep, you just change the amount. Put the unit back to 1, change the amount.
Yep.
And then when you go to add agent, add.
The add item or add agent?
Add agent.
Okay.
I'm 90% sure it's add agent. Add agent.
You just put whoever?
You should just be able to type, let's see, do Darren's name. See if you can find her.
Where did you get add agent from?
I lowered I don't think that's, sorry.
I'm trying to remember.
Is it add co-broker payment?
No, co-broker is when you get both the
oh yeah, don't use co-broker.
Buyer side and the seller side.
Yeah.
So we would never use that.
Yeah, and and don't do that for
instead of add agent. Then instead of add agent, go back down to add item.
I think it's under here. If you scroll, there it is. Outside referral. So it's not add agent. So you keep this amount the same because the total commission. Sorry.
Correct. Yeah. I just couldn't remember. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. So keep this amount the same because you need it to be that's amount paid out to you. However, inside what's paid out to you, you're going to be adding an item and paying an outside referral. Don't ever use inside referral. We don't do inside referrals in this format that they use it.
That's where you just add the agent.
Yeah, and it doesn't work that way. Just add the agent for inside referrals. Because if you're adding it, if you do it as an inside referral, you're taking on all the company dollar payment of the agent you're sharing the commission with, and you don't probably want to do that. You want them to pay their portion of the company dollar on their 25%, and you pay it only on your 75%. So this is where you'd create the outside referral. You'd put the referral amount, 25%, tax ID, if it's their social security number, if their EIN number. Don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 because that's not going to be good. It won't work. So I'll show you. And then you just fill out the broker name and the agent name and their address. And so that is where it's going to pull up. Let me just do.
They are working too, Timmy, I'm sure you're aware of this, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the whole tax ID thing, right now you need to still get a copy of the W-9. Even if you're doing all of this in Command and doing the referral agreement in Command, you still have to get a copy of the W-9. They are working to put in the W-9 information for each market center so that won't be necessary. But for the time being, we still have to do that little step.
Correct. So now, because I have that referral in, everything's adjusted, and on the right side, you'll see the summary. Total commission is the $7,500. Outside referral is this amount. Royalty, company dollar, here's what is paid to the office, and this is $3,600 is what I will be receiving. And at that point, you would just click submit. It's going to ask you another pop-up if you're going to donate to KW Cares. You can say yes, no. It'll automatically pull out if you want, and then you just click apply. Once it says under review, I have it, and it's going to get approved. Just like the old way, if there's any changes that need to happen once you've submitted, you have to just email me. It doesn't let you go in anymore and change it once I've imported it into the system. However, we are now building out a world where my system at the office is no longer the thing we're using. And so they want to get it to a space where you can edit things back and forth, and we can communicate that way, so you don't have to email me. You just have to change it in commissions. However, we're not there yet. So if the percentage of the commission changes or the price goes down or anything like that, just shoot me an email. I'll be able to fix it on my end. What questions do we have? So that's how it works, right? So this commission should be submitted within 48 hours after the under contract folders have been submitted. So it's a good little practice that if you've submitted this under contract folder, just go ahead and put in an offer and go ahead and do commissions. Right now, the look of it feels like you have to complete documents first and then you do offers and then you do commissions, but that's not the case. We really need commissions complete as soon as under contract is done, so that way I can be communicating with you about closing times and making sure you get paid quickly.
And to
So
help with Tiffany, you guys, it's important that you understand the reason for submitting these commissions is so that she knows how to plan to pay you. Because without her being able to plan to pay you, she may miss out on getting you paid in a promptly and timely fashion.
yeah, and I'll say, like, from an experience, like, we had an agent when I was in the Mount Pleasant office. We had the same problem with green sheets, right? Like, not doing it quickly. This agent got in a car accident and actually, like, was in very serious condition, and he had 2 or 3 things under contract, but I didn't know about it. And so thankfully he was okay. He made it out. But those clients are still our brokerage's clients if something happens to you. And I don't want to be morbid or all that stuff. However, those things are still protected by us. And so we want to make sure we are covering you as best we can. So that if something happens, we have someone that's able to kind of come up behind you and finish the deal so that your clients are taken care of at a very high level. So it's just kind of important to have all that stuff in there so that we can see it, because we don't know about it if it's on your computer. Camille, I see we have a question.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understood what you just said. After the documents were approved, we have 48 hours to go in and do the commission part.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the rule.
Except I would say after the documents are submitted. Not after they're approved.
Correct.
Approval is really irrelevant there.
Yeah, just go ahead and do it. And right after, it's a good practice. Now, like I said, I realize the reality of the world we're living in, but if you're already in there submitting under contract, I just
make it a habit of trying to do it all at the same time.
Yep. So that would be the standard that we expect in our market center. And if you don't, like, a lot of times I go in there and audit some of my under contract folders that are approved, and I go back and audit to see if you have commission submitted. So I will send you posts or messages if that's not happening. Okay, so that's it for me on my end. Anybody else have any questions?
If you have like a 50% split with another agent that's not part of the Keller Williams, does that matter?
That's an outside referral.
That's going to be an outside referral, and you just put in 50%. Were you here for the part where we did the outside referral and where to go, Patty?
I'm not sure.
This is all recorded, and so I'll be snipping parts of it so that we'll have different areas so that we can share, and I can also, Patty, help you with that offline too.
Okay, so
yes.
Do you cut a check for them?
Yes.
Okay.
So at closing, we would just need the referral agreement or any documentation you have, and their W-9. Okay. And then I would cut the check at closing to them so that you didn't have to deal with it. And then also that's important because then it doesn't go on your taxes.
Right. Exactly.
Let's be honest. That's the most important thing.
Sounds good.
Camille, what?
So when they change the commission tab, as soon as we submit the submitted items or documents, we have to go straight in and do it'll have the commission part already there for us to do, right?
So that was my suggestion. I made a suggestion so that as soon as under contract was, that it pulled a pop-up that says, would you like to complete your offers and commission now? And they are working to try to build that, so that's another trigger for you to just, as soon as you click submit, it pops up for something for you to do. So I know they're working on that. What I do know they're for sure going to do is when you go to offers and enter an offer, as soon as you click accept for an offer, it will pop out a window for you to complete your commission request there, and the commissions tab is going to completely go away.
Yeah. It's also important to understand, guys, the whole point of the offers tab is so that you can provide that information to your clients in a tangible way. So especially if you're working with a listing and you get multiple offers on that listing, what you want to be able to do is plug in all of those offers into that offers portal so that your consumer can see that, your seller can see all of them side by side and compare them in a tangible way. That's the whole reason we're building this, because this is what consumers want from us.
Perfect. All right, Jay, I know you've got another meeting following up after this, so I will let you
Yep,
take
so
it
I'm
from
just going to
here.
touch into DocuSign. If you will enable me to share my screen.
Let me.
Here we go. All right, so I connected to my hotspot. All right, so back into opportunities. Oh yeah, moving much faster. All right, so back into opportunities. I'm gonna go in my appointment phase. That's where this one lives. I'm gonna click on the opportunity, and now I'm gonna click on documents, and look at there how fast it loads. All right,
Crazy.
so checklist. This is residential, like Tiffany said, the most common one there. So I'm getting ready. I need to do these documents. That's my primary objective right now. So that's what we're going to walk through really quickly on how to do. So at the very beginning, when you're starting a transaction or starting to get signatures, when you in a new opportunity, you have to go start transaction. It gives you a drop down of DocuSign or Dotloop. If you wish to pay for Dotloop, you still can, but Dotloop will charge you money to use this platform. DocuSign is free, paid for by the brokerage. So we're going to go with DocuSign. And what that will do is connect you over to DocuSign. So as long as you are already connected into DocuSign, it's just going to ask you to log in. For those of you who are new, maybe you need to set that part up. And if that's the case, just let me or Kristen know and we'll get you connected. And then once you log in, what's going to happen is DocuSign is going to automatically create a room for you for this particular opportunity. So again, those of you who are familiar with Dotloop, a room is like a loop, okay? Same sort of concept. Initially, it's going to bring you into the Documents tab itself, but I want you to always get in the habit of making sure that the Details tab is completed. As long as you have stuff in the Details tab in your opportunity, it should auto import that stuff here, but just make sure that everything you need is here, because I promise you it will make your life better. If in this case we're doing a buyer transaction, so I don't yet know the seller, so I can minimize that because that's irrelevant for me at the moment. Listing agent also irrelevant. I only know the buyer information so far, so I'm going to put that in. So you can see here what it pulls over. It pulls over name, cell phone, address, email address. I also want to encourage you to go ahead and put the address in there as well, because there are some documents that require an address for the client. So go ahead and put that in as well. If there's a second buyer, or a co-buyer, you want to make sure that moves over. And then buyer agent. This stuff should automatically fill, but for whatever reason, I can't figure out how to get it to autofill the city, state, and zip for the office. I'm still working on that. So as soon as I figure that out, I'll share it with you. So you want to make sure you go in and add that as well. All right. So at this point, we've got all the information that we have currently that will help us. So we can save this, go back to the Documents tab, and now we can add our documents in. So when you want to click the Add Documents button, and we're going to go to DocuSign Forms, okay? Always use DocuSign Forms. When you click DocuSign Forms, it's going to always have this pop down to select a library. And for us, it's SCAR, the South Carolina Association of Realtors. If you have not connected to your NRDS number and SCAR, it's going to ask you to do that. So if it does, just be aware that it's going to ask you to connect your NRDS number so that it knows that you need access to SCAR. When you click SCAR, all the different forms that you need are going to populate down here, and you select the ones you want. So in this case, I need the disclosure of brokerage relationships and the exclusive right to buy buyer agency. So 110 and 130, those are the two that I need at this point in my contract. So those are the two I'm going to add. All right. Right now, it's added those two documents, and it's gone ahead and autofill. Now, what I want you to notice is, for those of you who are familiar with dotloop, it's really important for you to understand that with dotloop, you were able to add signatures and fill out the contract at the same time. Docusign does not work that way. It works in two different phases. First phase is completing the contract. Second phase is applying for signatures. And we'll walk through that here really quickly. So when I'm going through this disclosure, there's nothing here on the disclosure to fill out except for a signature. So you're going to see that when you come in here to fill it out, there's nothing there except for a signature, but you can't put a signature yet because that's not where we are in the process, okay? So for this point, we're done. Save and close, all right? Now we move to the next document, which is the actual buyer agency agreement. That is one that we do need to fill out. And some of that information should be auto-filled based on what we've put in. So when we click on that for it to pull up, it's going to pull up the client's name in box 1, the brokerage name in box 3, and then down here, you're going to need to fill out section 2. So, you know, general description, general price range.
Just to clarify, Jay, there's no way to template these, right? Ahead of time. It's got to be done
There is, and I'm learning how to do that. So hopefully by our next class, I'll be able to share that.
Cool. Thank you.
Because the templates, you want to be able to generically do some things for you. And in case with buyer agency, you can generally do that. And also on templates for actual contracts, you want to go ahead and like have it fill out page 9 because you don't need to do that every single time. But a couple other things, you know, that you can use. And I'll bring that around during our next class, which is at the end of the month. All right, so moving on down. Again, with this is something that you can absolutely have autofilled because we always do the same thing here. So brokerage fee, and then you can say, which is greater than, I always put dashes in there. Now, again, you do your business the way you do your business. Don't pay attention necessarily to how I do mine. But this is how you would do it based on how you do things. I always have my clients sign both option 1 and option 2. You may only do 1. That's up to you. This is how I do it, okay? If you have questions about that, that's probably a broker question to ask Joseph. But this is how I do it. So I fill in, there's a $0 amount, like it's not a dollar amount that I'm charging here, but it is 3% for up to 180 days after they close. The reason I do option 1, just to clarify, is in the event that you are negotiating a buyer and you end up trying to show them a for sale by owner property, and the for sale by owner is unwilling to pay your commission, you want to make sure that you have the ability at some point to get paid by someone, okay? And that's why we always want to make sure we include option 1. It's not necessary. Most of the time, everybody goes with option 2, which is perfectly fine. I just do both, okay? Moving on down. So that's the only thing we're going to do. We're going to select this box. We're going to fill this in as we need. Again, section 7, we have to fill out for signatures, but we're not there yet. So it's not giving us that option yet. At this point, the only other things really that you need to fill out are the broker does have the ability to disclose the identity and whether or not, where's the, maybe that's it. I think that's it. All right. And then the signatures. So again, this is the buyer's address down here. That's why you want to put that in. And then it's going to have source for your signature. So we filled out everything we need to fill out. Now we save and close. All right, so for this instance, I'm ready to send this to my client, all right? So what I'm gonna do now is prepare that for signature. So in order to do that, I have to send an envelope. So I'm gonna create an envelope. I'm gonna add a name. So this is buyer agency documents. So this is you want to name it because eventually you're going to have several different envelopes in each room, and you want to be able to identify which envelopes are for what purpose. So make sure you name it. What I always do here also is I copy this because I come down here to the email subject and just paste it so that it says it in the email subject line when it goes to the client. All right. You don't have to do that, just a little trick. Now what I need to do is I need to add documents. So I go to my room docs, and you'll see the 2 documents that I have in the room. At this point, they're the only 2 that are in there, so it's really easy to find. I'm adding those 2 documents. They're already completed. I've done that already. Now I need to add a recipient. So my recipient is going to be in pre-tagged roles, okay? Pre-tagged roles are buyer 1 and buyer agent, and then make sure you select who each person is. So buyer agent, I've got her, and buyer agent is me. Make sure you're selecting the right people in the right spot, because this is going to be where it assigns signatures, and it's going to help you do that 97% of the contract. There's a couple areas that we got to tweak, but it's going to fill it in for about 97% of the contract. It should automatically populate that both or all of your signatures that are needed are done in number 1 position. What that means is everyone at the same time. And now you're ready to go. All right. So now we're going to move on to next, because now we're going to actually make sure the signatures are where they need to be. So in this case, you're going to see the contract as it pulls up, and you're going to notice over here on the left side, there's a drop down that has a name, but it also has 2 different colors, because in this case, there are 2 people who need to sign. I'm one of those people, and my client is one of those people. I wish that there was a rhyme or a reason as to who was which color and that was always the same, but it's not. Yellow is just the first person, blue is the second person, and then it goes on to green and red and purple and orange and all that sort of stuff. The colors do not necessarily associate with anybody specifically, just know that. But so in this case, I'm going to scroll through and see where I need to add signatures. So on this document, the only signature that's needed, so that signature is there. I'm a little anal, so I'm going to make sure it's in the right spot. The date is there. We're good to go. All right. Now we're moving on to this next one. All right. Filled out, all the documents ready to go, and we need to get signatures. So the initials are there, ready to go. All right. You see blue is the client, yellow is you, the agent. It's not always going to be that way, but just pay attention to the difference between the 2. Now, here's where we're going to add in stuff that we have to tweak. These 2 are not required. That's why you don't see them as a specific color. They've got the blue outline, but they do not have a shaded color. That's because they're not required. We need to make them required. Otherwise, the system is not going to force the client to sign them, okay? We need to make sure that Docusign forces the client to sign these boxes. So because I'm doing both signatures here, you may choose to only do one in option 1 or one in option 2, depending on how you do your business. But I'm going to make both required by clicking this required box over here. Now they're required for them to be signed, okay? Now I want to move on. I don't need these signatures here, so I'm just going to delete them. I'm going to select them and delete them. All right. Now we're in section 7. This is the one we have to fill out for signatures in 3 of the boxes. So I moved them all over so that they're all in the right spot. Now I want you to see I don't need this box, so I'm going to click it and delete it. My box on the first line, the third line, and the bottom line. Those are the lines that I need them on, but I'm also going to make them required. So I'm going to highlight them all again and make them required, because I need my client to sign these. If they're not required, the system's not going to prompt the client to sign it, okay? So now they're required, and I'm moving on. At this point, it should be ready to go. It's just a matter of making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And I'm just being anal by moving stuff around. It's also important to pay attention. That line inside the box for signature should be equal to the line there so that it fits on the line properly. Any questions about this process? All right, so this is ready to go for signature. And as soon as you click send, it's going to go out to your client. Now I'm going to show you really quickly the recipient preview so that you can see what it looks like on their end. So when they open this document up, when they get the email, it's going to come in and it's going to prompt them to select, to agree to the terms and conditions. They're going to select that box, and then they're going to click get started. When they click start, it's going to automatically prompt them for everywhere they need to initial. Now in this case, the recipient here is me. You can also change that here to see what the client sees. So pay attention to that because each one's a little different. So in this case, now we're looking at the client. What's the client going to see? Start. That's going to prompt them to sign here, and they click, and then it takes them to the next spot. Click, 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 all the way through. But if you don't make these required, it's just going to pass them over. All right? Any questions?
Jay,
Go for it.
hey, do you do your initials before you send?
So what I do is, now that it's for me to sign, if I were to click send, I'm not actually going to send this because my mom will actually sign it. So I'm not going to do that. But once you click send and go back into the room, and I'll show you what that looks like. When you go back into the room, it's actually going to populate that it tell you that you need to sign as well. And so you just click that box and say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and sign now. And then you sign too. I always do it immediately. Otherwise I forget.
Right. Okay. I didn't know if the client needed to sign before you did or after, or you can second time to matter, right?
Nope. It doesn't matter. You can sign it before the client, after the client, during the client. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So I'm going to save and close this. Now I want you to pay attention to a couple things. So this is a draft. You'll see there that it says draft, and you can go in and change things. Once it's sent, you can't really go back in and change things unless you retract the document or void it. Then you can change things. All right. It's also important to understand in documents, the blue icon is a form that's a Docusign form that's editable that you can make changes to. If it's red, it's a PDF form, and you can't change things there. You can add signatures to it, but you cannot actually change the document, okay? You'll also notice, I'm going to show you really quickly, in a different opportunity, you're also going to notice a couple other different colors that I want you to see. Once you have sent out some documents, you're going to see a few different things. So in this case, we're looking at this a little bit unrelated. This has been approved by the Market Center because I've already submitted these documents. That's what it looks like from a compliance standpoint that you're good to go. I'm going to now click go to transaction because this is an existing Docusign room. Now I'm going to move over to that one. So we're going to look at that one. And you'll see here that there's a red PDF icon, and these certification documents automatically pop up. As soon as a client signs an envelope, you're going to get a certification document for that envelope. And every time they sign an envelope, you're going to get another certification document, okay? It's really important for you to understand what these certification documents are for. So when your client signs the document, the certification document shows you the client's signature, shows you where they signed it, when they signed it, on which IP address they signed it, and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully you're never going to need this, but what this is here for is if you have to defend yourself in court that your client did or didn't sign something and they did or didn't do it on their own. So in a CYA, mode, you want to make sure that you're not allowing them to sign it on your computer and that you're not signing it for them, because then it's going to show the IP addresses as the same. In a perfect world, you want these IP addresses to be different, okay? That's just a CYA thing. That's what that document's there for. Every time somebody signs something, it's going to pop that up inside your room. What's also going to happen is, aside from the original form that you sent out, so you see this form here, right next to it, it's going to see one that's signed. So it's going to duplicate the original and show you the signed copy of it. So you've still got the original that's not signed, and now you've got the one that is signed, okay? Any other questions? A lot of situations where you have to sign a PDF document, okay? I'm going to show you what that looks like. So in this case, this is the property condition disclosure. I think I've already put in all the signatures, but if not, I'll show you how to do that. So what I did here was, because I'm representing the buyer, they've got to sign this disclosure as part of the offer. So we're going to pull this up and get them to sign it. So you see here, it's all blank. They haven't signed anything, all right? So what I need to do, I need to have them sign this. So I need to create an envelope. So I'm going to create a new envelope. This is my property condition disclosure. All right. And then I'm going to add that document. Again, this is the PDF one. So now I've got that document. I'm going to add my recipients. Now, sometimes you're going to see that the pre-tagged roles does not appear. I would always prefer you defer to pre-tagged roles, because that's going to make sure that it's accurate. But sometimes you have to click room participants. That's okay, because it still should have everybody at that point once you've done signatures. So I'm going to select them and me, because I have to sign one part of this. So we've got all three people needs to sign. And again, I'm just copying and pasting this down here so that they know what they're signing. Next. All right. Now in this case, because this is not a pre-filled Docusign form, you actually have to manually add all the spots for signature. I wish there was a way to make this simpler or faster, but there just isn't, because every document is different. So in this case, I need to add an initial for buyer 1 and an initial for buyer 2. Now I'm going to show you another little trick. So I'm going to make these a little smaller because they're too big in my world. And because I know I've got to do these quite a few times, I'm going to highlight them both. And I'm going to copy them. So you can do Control C. And then I'm just going to move down here and click Control V. That's pasting. I'm pasting those two initials right in the same spot. Okay. And then it's just paste, drag and drop, paste, drag and drop. That makes it a lot easier and faster for you as you move through. All right. Now, I also want to encourage you when you're doing this. So we've got signature here for buyer 2. A little too big, so I'll make it smaller to fit. You also want to add a date here, okay? Now, when you add a date, it automatically does a timestamp with it, so you don't need to do both. You just need a date. And then add the other one, signature and a date. All right. So in this document, I've got everything I need now, okay? Hypothetically, say that you needed to add initials, because right here they had stricken through something and you need to add initials for your client to sign. But you want to make sure that there's a date stamp there, because unlike dotloop, for those of you who are familiar, the initial and signature boxes themselves do not put a timestamp on each individual initial. So it's important for you to do that yourself. So what I will do here is, if this was a hypothetical strike through, I'm going to add the initials, and I'm going to add one for the other client. And then I'm also going to add a date. Now, in all fairness, as long as they're doing it at the same time, you really only need one, but you can, just so you know, again, CYA, add both. I would always do that just so that you know who signed it and when and what time they signed it. The reason that this is here, your certification document verifies all that. However, it's not on the actual contract itself. And most of your attorneys are going to prefer it be on the contract just because it makes their life simpler. Any other questions? We're about 14 minutes over, so I don't want to keep you guys any longer unless you have specific questions. I also do, if you guys have a moment, I want to see, because I've been working with Docusign for some changes and I think we've got them fixed. I want to see really quick. So I'm going to go back to this room. I'm going to add some more documents. So we had a couple glitches in our purchase contract, and I think they've got them fixed. So let's see. All right, 310, let's pull that up. So when you go in to fill this one out, there were some glitches, and Camille, I know you know about this, where the commas weren't working. I think, nope, they still haven't fixed it. Let's see. What that looks like if they did. So I've asked them also to put in a box that spells out the amount for the contract. Nope, it's still not fixed. But I'm working on that, so hopefully that'll be resolved soon. There are only a couple glitches that I'm aware of with any of these contracts, and that is the biggest one is in the purchase agreement. It won't allow you to put commas in the dollar amount field here, and you know, for purchases under $1 million, it's not super important, but if it's over $1 million, the commas are kind of important. So there's a couple workarounds. If you guys need that, I can kind of show you how to do that, but it should be fixed within the next few days or week. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Cool. Well,
Can I ask you?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so .loop is going away. What happens to all of my old .loop files?
So .loop is not going away. It's just that our agreement to provide it to you has ended. You will still be able to log into .loop and retrieve any old files. And unless Docusign or .loop changes their agreement with us, you'll be able to do that in perpetuity. I would encourage you, if it matters to you, to go in and download them all. That's probably a good idea to do, just to cover your, behind, in case there's a compliance issue down the road. Because you don't want to get locked out if .loop gets mad at us for some reason.
Okay, great, thanks.
There's a good resource called API Nation that I actually use to sync all of the market centers .loops. It costs like $25 a month, but it literally took me a week to download everything. So then I just canceled it. So it downloaded straight into my Google Drive, and your KW email is linked to Google. So you have unlimited space to fill all those in if you needed to do something like that. I second Jay and recommend getting your files out of there. If you can't log into .loop, you can always call them and they'll give you access to it, but they have authority to lock you out at any time.
And, worst case scenario, if you were to get locked out and you haven't downloaded your files, then you pay to get in and get them. And then, like Tiffany said, you just, once you get what you need, you stop the payment. And
KWRI has copies of everything. So KWRI downloaded everything to a deep dark server somewhere, so they have access because they legally have to. And so if it did come worst case scenario, we needed to get something from the depths, I have processes to take to do that.
Correct. It's just not going to be an instant thing.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. All right,
Any other
thank you.
questions? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have this recorded, so if you guys missed parts or need more instruction, we'll get that out to you guys shortly. And
It's also important to understand, guys, to those of you who are familiar with .loop, why we walked away from that agreement. And it's because they are using the data that we put in there to both sell it to other platforms and to access your clients. So that's one of the reasons why that's the reason why we moved away from .loop.
Yep. Cool. Well, we have another class, one of these at the end of June that's going to go deeper on different stuff. So whatever the people need. So if you guys have more questions, you can come email us at any time, but we'll also have more training on it as we go.
Great. Enjoyed this. Thank you.
Good.
Absolutely.
Thank
Y'all
you
have
very
a good one.
You too.